Good afternoon, everybody. I am the Cynic. As many of you are no doubt aware by now, Memory's Pizza, a pizza place down in Indiana, has become the center point in a debate about discrimination. Apparently, the owners, the O'Connors, have refused to cater a gay wedding. This, as typical of our politically correct consumed climate, was met with the standard from both the social justice warriors and a good many average everyday Americans. Retribution included a boycott, spamming one-star ratings, some threats of violence via Twitter, and of course the demands to government to force the restaurant to conform to social norms. The reason I'm bringing this story up is the climate of political correctness and anti-bigotry that the Western world has. Now, before I start off, I'd like to state that while I personally am not homophobic, I'm also relatively indifferent to the pizza owners' views on gay marriage. They don't appear to refuse service to gay people in general. However, their issue lies in catering a wedding that they find to be against their own beliefs, be they religious or otherwise. I find their right to refuse service for any reason to trump any and all feelings of being offended. Do I consider it a foolish decision to refuse money on grounds of what they find distasteful? Kind of. I've never owned a business, but if I did, I could certainly think of quite a few things that would give me pause about serving certain clientele. Say if it were a black supremacist rally, or white supremacist rally, or a rally for communism. Insert false equivalency fallacy argument here. Now, let's call the spade a spade here for a moment. This is, in fact, discrimination. Don't try to deny it. Yes, it is. It's just one of the three major protected peoples that society doesn't like being discriminated against. These include gays, women, and non-whites. These three classes hold far more emotional protection under the law than others, as their disadvantage, both real and perceived, still holds on to the white guilt, male guilt, and straight guilt of the public at large for how our ancestors treated their ancestors. Appealing to the logical side of the general public in terms of these issues is almost a moot point, as their strong emotional boasting that has resulted from our social atmosphere of anti-bigotry and guilt will be there to shield these three classes from any logical scrutiny. Though looking at it from a logical and mature and respectful approach, I find that when it comes to someone on their own property adhering to their own ideas and running their business as they see fit while bringing no harm to others, their performing of discrimination is a freedom they are allowed. Now, before I get everybody giving me a negative rating or going into a comment rampage about how much of a bigot I am, let me say that I'm all for the mature, keep that word in mind, it's important, consequences that the restaurant is facing, the main of which being the boycott of the restaurant and the less extreme criticism that it's getting. I'm very much in favor of consequence of the freedom people should be given. However, the response given has been inappropriate at best. Violently threatening tweets, one-star ratings that judge the restaurant not on its food quality or atmosphere, but personal beliefs of the reviewer, and the constant attacks and shame they receive on their Facebook page. Look, I'm all for criticizing people's worldviews, but to threaten them or encourage violence due to it is another matter. This also includes using government law to force association and service that should be voluntary. Now, let's get the obvious out of the way. Yes, I'm white, straight, cis, male, and I haven't faced too much discrimination, blah blah blah. However, if I came across a restaurant that only served Hispanics or blacks or gays or only women, I'd be more than happy to avoid said restaurant in favor of a place that would be more ready to take my money, ad hominems aside. Would I be offended by it? No, not really. I'd find it rather stupid to discriminate against a demographic of people whose money was just as green as everybody else's, but I'd respect the owner's wishes all the same. Same for only female and gay, as I said before. Let them deal with the free market and allow the business to face its consequences. I mean, why would I want to give money or patronage to someone whom is racist or sexist? This doesn't make any sense, really. Now, that in its context, the reason I'm making this video is to finally open up a discussion about anti-bigotry versus voluntary association. Very nice hot topic. I don't particularly care about the Religious Freedom Act or Religious Restoration Act, whatever, nor the religious implications at all. As far as I'm concerned, this is an issue of, again, voluntary association. My main question is this: why are people so eager to give money to this place exactly? I mean, wouldn't you rather know if you're supporting a person with homophobic views or not? Forcing them to accept patronage of gays doesn't make them any less of a homophobe, now does it? No. It just makes them hide the fact and gain them profit through your ignorance. On the basics of voluntary association, the principles of informed consumerism in general, would it not make more sense to know what you're supporting or not? And on that note, the main topic in all of this is tolerance. The politically correct climate we have now makes anything that doesn't outwardly agree with the protected peoples into a hate and unacceptable intolerance. This is where the main issue lies. People are so afraid of being called intolerant that they will all bow down to political correctness and cast their beliefs aside or into secrecy for the sake of public relations, regardless of if said intolerance fails to lead to violence and ends with nothing more than a rejection of service and some hurt feelings. Would it not be just a little bit hypocritical for the attacks that this restaurant has received to be incited by the intolerance of others for the O'Connor's beliefs? Are the O'Connor's beliefs discriminatory? Yes. Yes, they are. And what is the main reason for all of the threats, boycotts, and cyber criticism they are receiving? Discrimination of their anti-gay marriage beliefs. Discrimination for beliefs for discrimination for beliefs. And here comes the arguments of the difference is that gays don't choose to be gay. The pizza people do choose to be homophobic. To which I reply, so what? I'm not here to justify their discrimination. Honestly, I don't give a rat's ass about it. Aside from my own belief in profit, I'm merely saying that it should be tolerated and that it would be more prudent for the free market consequences to hinder the business than forcing them into secrecy via immature actions like threats, shame, and government force. And on a final note, who is the more reprehensible party in this entire debacle? Sure, the pizzeria refused service on grounds of discrimination. Fine, nobody's arguing against that. Alright? However, the opposition has gone as far as to threaten force of violence to force the O'Connors into their view of thinking, both through government legislation and threats on social media. I suppose when it comes down to tolerance and intolerance, one side clearly demonstrates the beliefs that violence and coercion should be used to enforce their ideas on how the world should work. And isn't wanting to force others to conform to one's views through such threats intolerance in and of itself? Just a thought. I'm the Cynic, everybody. Have a nice day. Oh, and before I forget, the fact that Christians would likely use law to make gay marriage illegal in general, thus using force of violence to their own ends, that isn't the issue at hand. The issue here isn't about gay marriage. It's about voluntary association. Gay marriage just happens to be the topic we're using. Anyway, I'm the Cynic, everybody. Have a nice day.